At exactly 0300 hours on Thursday, April 16th, 2026, day 47 of Operation Epic Fury, the United States military published 4 sentences that changed the strategic calculus of this war in ways that have not yet fully registered in any newsroom on Earth. The U.S. military said overnight that its blockade of Iranian ports has been fully implemented, and that U.S. forces have completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea, turning back 10 ships since the blockade began Monday. 10 ships turned back, Iranian ports sealed. In 72 hours, the United States went from a 21-hour negotiation that produced nothing to a naval siege that has stopped every vessel trying to enter or leave Iran's coastline from the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman to the Arabian Sea. Iran read those 4 sentences, and then it issued its own. Iran's armed forces threatened to block shipping from the Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, and the Red Sea if the U.S. continues its blockade and creates insecurity for Iranian commercial ships and oil tankers. The Persian Gulf, the Sea of Oman, the Red Sea, 3 of the most critical maritime corridors on the planet, carrying not just oil and gas, but grain, medicine, fertilizer, consumer goods, and the economic lifeblood of every country from India to Egypt to Germany. Iran just threatened to close all of them simultaneously. Not the Strait of Hormuz alone, which already carries 1/5 of the world's oil and has been effectively shut for 47 days. All 3, at once, as retaliation for a blockade that Trump declared because a 21-hour peace talk in Islamabad collapsed over nuclear enrichment. This is the threat that has been sitting in the background of this entire war, the doomsday card that Iran's military planners built into every escalation model, and it was played publicly this morning in direct response to the fully implemented blockade. And simultaneously, in the same news cycle, on the same morning, Donald Trump stood before reporters and said the Iran war is close to over. Both things are true right now, and the gap between them is where 6 days of history will be made. The ceasefire expires April 22nd, 6 days from today. The U.S. blockade has turned back 10 ships and sealed Iran's economy from the sea. Iran has threatened to expand the closure to 3 maritime corridors. Vance is being prepared to lead a potential second round of negotiations before that expiry date. And somewhere between Trump's close to over and Iran's threat to shut the Red Sea, the actual outcome of the most consequential military confrontation since the Cold War is being decided. At 9 o'clock hours in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to discuss the ceasefire. I reiterated Pakistan's firm commitment to advancing its efforts to encourage both the U.S. and Iran towards an agreement aimed at lasting peace and stability in the region, Sharif said. Pakistan's prime minister is flying between capitals, Islamabad to Jeddah, trying to find enough common ground to schedule a rune, a date, and a second meeting that the whole world is waiting for and nobody has confirmed. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to lead a potential second round of talks with Iranian officials should negotiations produce another sit-down before the ceasefire expires next week, sources told CNN. The same Vance who spent 21 hours in a Serena hotel corridor last weekend and boarded Air Force Two at dawn with nothing signed is preparing to board that plane again. The same nuclear question is on the table. The same Iranian delegation that called Washington's demands maximalism and shifting goalposts is the delegation he would be meeting. And the same clock, April 22nd, is still running. What changed between Sunday's collapse and today's potential second round is not the positions. The positions have not moved. What changed is the pressure. The blockade is fully implemented. 10 ships turned back. Iran's economy is being strangled by sea, while its missile tunnel excavators are clearing rubble by land. U.S. intelligence assessed that roughly half of Iran's missile launchers were still intact after a month of fighting, buried underground by strikes on tunnel entrances, and Iran has been using the ceasefire period to dig them out. You eat the first attack, dig yourself out, and then launch again, one analyst explained, which is exactly what the design of Iran's underground missile cities was always meant to deliver. This is the military reality that sits under every diplomatic conversation today. The U.S. is blockading Iran's ports, while Iran reconstitutes its missile force. Both sides are using the ceasefire to improve their position before the expiry date forces a decision. The question is not whether pressure is being applied. The question is which side's pressure reaches a breaking point first: Iran's economy strangled by naval blockade, or Washington's political appetite for resuming strikes against a country the president has already declared defeated. On Capitol Hill on Wednesday, Senate Republicans voted down a resolution pushed by Democrats to prohibit Trump from taking further military action in Iran, 47-52, largely along party lines, with Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky the only Republican to vote for the measure. The war powers challenge failed. Trump retains full authority to resume strikes without congressional approval. The political constraint on escalation is gone. The only remaining constraint is the ceasefire window, and the ceasefire window closes in 6 days. In Washington on Tuesday, Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors sat across a table from each other for the first time in 43 years. The State Department confirmed they agreed to continue negotiations. Israel refused to commit to a ceasefire in Lebanon. Hezbollah rejected the talks entirely. Trump said the leaders of Israel and Lebanon will speak for the first time in 34 years as the two countries discuss a possible ceasefire. Neither Israel nor Lebanon has publicly confirmed that call. But its potential existence, a direct leader-to-leader conversation between Jerusalem and Beirut, represents the first crack in the Lebanon fault line that has threatened to collapse the Iran ceasefire since the moment it was announced. Lebanon is the tripwire that Iran has been holding over every round of these negotiations. Tehran made the inclusion of Lebanon in any ceasefire a precondition for the Islamabad talks even starting. Iran's parliamentary speaker said this morning that Hezbollah's continued fighting will bring about a Lebanese ceasefire on resistance terms. The United States and Israel said Lebanon is not covered by the Iran ceasefire and never was. That contradiction, a contradiction that Pakistan's prime minister explicitly claimed was resolved when he announced the April 7th truce, and that Netanyahu explicitly rejected within hours of that announcement, has not been resolved. But a direct phone call between the leaders of Israel and Lebanon, if it happens today, begins to build the scaffolding of a parallel track that could eventually remove Lebanon from Iran's leverage toolkit. Meanwhile, France and Britain are organizing a multinational mission to restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. France's President Macron announced it publicly. Britain's Prime Minister Starmer has confirmed UK involvement. Neither country will participate in the US blockade. Neither country wants the war to resume. Both are trying to build an international framework that gives Iran a face-saving path to open the strait without formally surrendering it to unilateral American control. The exact outcome that Iran's IRGC Navy commander described this week as a new phase of management that will never return to the status quo ante. Iran charged some vessels up to $2 million in transit fees to cross the strait during the war. That revenue, collected in the gaps of the blockade, extracted from desperate shipping companies trying to move crude and grain through the only available route, is being reported by Iranian state media as proof of a permanent new Iranian authority over international waters. A lawmaker on Iran's National Security Committee confirmed the fees on the record. The IRGC's Navy said the strait is under smart control and management. The billboard in Tehran's Revolution Square still reads, "The Strait of Hormuz remains closed." 6 days. The blockade is fully implemented. The missile tunnels are being dug out. The second round of talks is being arranged but not confirmed. The ceasefire is legally dead but politically maintained. The Red Sea threat has been issued. Trump says the war is close to over, and Iran says ports are either for everyone or for no one. What happens in the next 144 hours will determine which of those two sentences gets written into the history books. Drop your answer below. Does Vance board that plane again before April 22nd, or does the blockade become the opening move of the war's second phase?